Hello, dear students. Today we will continue with the structure of heart and the functioning of heart. So let's start. We had done that when there is plaque deposition in the arteries, it is called as arteriosclerosis. Now, due to this plaque or fatty deposition, the arteries are no longer flexible, they become hard. That is called as atherosclerosis. Now, due to either of these, the coronary arteries, which supply blood to the heart, especially, they get affected. When they get affected, then one part of the heart, which is supposed to receive the blood from this coronary artery, may not get the blood supply adequately. That leads to a condition called as myocardial infarction. The part of the heart which is not receiving any oxygen, any nutrition because of blockage will die, and the remaining heart will contract, the remaining heart will relax. But this segment of heart, which is affected due to either arteriosclerosis or atherosclerosis of the coronary artery, will not receive any oxygenated blood, will not receive any nutrition. So, this part of the heart dies. In common language, we call it as heart attack. So, here there is myocardial infarction. So, once the heart attack has taken place, the coronary artery is blocked, the heart muscle dies, a person will display electrical instability of the heart muscle tissue. That will be severely painful. You will experience pain in your left side, left shoulder, left jaw, and that pain will be called as angina. So, angina pectoris is the pain associated with heart attack. Now, when you talk about heart and the contraction and the relaxation of heart, two terms are used for contraction and relaxation. Those terms are called as systole and diastole. Systole means that the part of that heart is contracting. Either the atria are contracting or the ventricles are contracting. When the atria will contract, it is called as atrial systole or auricular systole. When the ventricles will contract, it's called as ventricular systole. And when they relax, it is called as diastole. So atria relax, atrial diastole. Ventricles relax, ventricular diastole. Now, what happens during atrial systole? So, when the right and the left atria will contract, that is their systole, the first thing which happens is the valves which are present at the base of vena cava, the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, and the four pulmonary veins which open in the right auricle. These valves will close. The blood has no other option except for going forward. In this case, from right auricle, the blood will come to the right ventricle. In the other case, from left auricle, the blood will come to the left ventricle. Now, here, from right auricle to right ventricle, the tricuspid valve will open, and in this segment, from left auricle to left ventricle, the bicuspid or the mitral valve will open. The blood will fill the ventricle. So, when auricles or atria are contracting, are displaying systole, the blood will be pushed into the ventricles. Now, when ventricles will contract, in this case, the blood should not go back. The blood should not try to go back to the auricles from where it came. So, the first thing which happens is the bicuspid and the tricuspid valve close. When they close with a little sound. That sound is called as the lub sound. So when the tricuspid and the bicuspid valves close at the beginning of ventricular systole, a little sound is produced. We call that as the first heart sound, lub. Now, when they close, the blood has only one direction, that is to flow forward. So the blood goes into the pulmonary artery, the pulmonary trunk. So the valve which is present at the base of the pulmonary trunk, which is the pulmonary semilunar valve, this valve will open. From the right ventricle, the blood will now go to the lungs for oxygenation. Same way, when the left ventricle will contract, that is display a systole, the blood will open the aortic semilunar valve and will now be pushed to the entire body to supply the oxygenated blood to the entire body. The tricuspid and the bicuspid valves, which have closed, are held in that closed position by the chordae tendineae, which are present on the papillary muscles in the ventricle walls. So the chordae tendineae hold the tricuspid and the bicuspid valves closed, and the blood moves forward to the lungs via the pulmonary artery and to the body via the aorta. In ventricular diastole, this is a stage when the filling of ventricles takes place with blood. So the auricles will release blood which will directly enter into the ventricular chambers, and any blood which tries to now backflow, because the blood has already gone into the pulmonary artery and the aorta, any blood which now tries to come back from them into the ventricle is prevented from doing so by closure of pulmonary semilunar valve and the aortic semilunar valve. When these two valves close at the beginning of ventricular diastole, it produces the second heart sound, which you call as dup. So the lub sound is produced at the closure of tricuspid and bicuspid valve. Collectively, we call them as the AV valve, and the dup sound is produced at the closure of pulmonary semilunar valves and the aortic semilunar valves and the aortic semilunar valves. So collectively, we call these as the semilunar valves of pulmonary artery and of aorta. So this is how we can combine all the heart sounds. The first heart sound, that is the lub, it is produced when the ventricular systole begins and the closure of tricuspid and the bicuspid valve. We collectively call these as the atrioventricular valve takes place. This produces the first heart sound called lub. The second heart sound, that is the dup sound, is produced when the ventricular diastole, that means relaxation of the ventricle, takes place and the blood tries to come back inside the ventricle. So the closure of the semilunar valves at the base of aorta and the pulmonary artery will produce the second heart sound, which you call as the dup sound. So these two sounds are responsible for the specific heart sound produced, which you hear when you place a small stethoscope near your heart. So you are able to hear the lub dub sound gradually produced. Now, there is a term called as the cardiac cycle, which tells you that the heart cycle of these sounds is produced in a cyclic manner. So the systole of atria or the systole of auricles takes place first. This lasts for a duration of 0.15 second. So for 0.15 second, the atria will contract. After the atria have contracted, the ventricles will contract for a duration of 0.30 second. And after both of these have contracted, there will be a joined relaxation phase for both the atria and the ventricle. That will last for a duration of 0.40 second. So if you were to club it all, each cardiac cycle lasts for 0.85 second. That's a duration less than 1 second. It is because of this 0.85 second, the heart is beating 72 to 80 times per minute in a healthy person. So this is because of the systematic way in which the systole and the diastole are occurring repeatedly. So your heart as a muscle does not relax for a specific period of time. In between every heartbeat, the heart gets this time 0.40 second for relaxation. Otherwise, your heart keeps on pumping blood for 24/7. That means 24 hours in 7 days. The heart does not relax. The human heart is a myogenic heart. A myogenic heart means the impulse for heartbeat generates in the heart muscles itself. It generates from a specialized muscular tissue called the sinoatrial node. So here the impulse for heartbeat initiates. This sinoatrial node is present in the walls of right auricle, in the dorsal wall of right auricle. From here, the impulse is transmitted to the atrioventricular node, the AV node. Again, this is present in the wall of the right auricle near the septum. From here, the impulse is transmitted to the bundle of His, which are nothing but segments of elongated tissue. From here, it passes to the Purkinje fibers from where the impulse will be sent to the ventricle walls. So your heart starts to contract and relax by the initiation which is generated at the sinoatrial node. So if you were to see how these are placed in the heart, the sinoatrial node, which is present in the dorsal wall of the right auricle, initiates the impulse, which is transmitted to the AV node, that is the atrioventricular node, from here to the bundle of His, and ultimately to the Purkinje fibers, which will initiate the contraction of the ventricles. So then the contraction is followed by relaxation, again another contraction, again another relaxation, and in this way the cardiac cycle continues. So all this is initiated in the sinoatrial node. So sinoatrial node is called as the pacemaker of heart. Now sometimes this pacemaker goes wrong. It doesn't function properly. There could be various issues associated with it not functioning properly. In that case, an artificial pacemaker is inserted inside the heart. It is inserted near your left shoulder, and one of the wires or extensions is inserted near the SA node, which has gone defective. Once the impulse is triggered now by the artificial pacemaker, the heartbeat will continue on its own. So this is used in case of people who are having a defective sinoatrial node. And with this, the functioning of the heart will continue in a regulated manner. So with this, we finish off the first part of the functioning of the heart. The remaining structures we will do in the next video. Hope you have understood it all. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.